Chapter 3594. Perhaps that's the dividing line of the battle. Xiren pondered and said. But it feels a little strange. Isn't it a little too neat? Let's go over and take a look. Bewitching said. Xiren increased the speed of the boat, and finally arrived at the battlefield not long after. However, when they got closer to the battlefield, they could clearly see the black seawater in the distance. When they saw it, the expressions of the four people froze for a moment. Then, a look of disbelief quickly climbed onto their faces. This is too scary. Shangguan Yingying stretched out her finger and pointed at the seawater in front of her. She was so shocked that she almost couldn't speak. This was simply too shocking. How can this be? Could it be that all the black seawater in the back is the same? Xiren's voice rose uncontrollably. The shock that this scene brought to him was no different from when he first saw the skeleton army. If that's the case, then it's too scary. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Her clear and bright eyes rippled with a look of disbelief. Even though she had already felt that the black seawater was very strange, the real result was still beyond her expectations. This was because the black seawater was actually densely packed with demonic beasts. However, because there were simply too many demonic beasts, and they were densely packed together, the seawater looked black from afar. At a glance, there was only endless darkness in the distance. Didn't this mean that it was filled with demonic beasts? When they thought of this possibility, even Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. This number of demonic beasts was simply too terrifying. It seems that we've underestimated the danger of the Outer Palace Disciples' training grounds. Bewitching's eyes darkened. With such a large number, even if the demonic beasts weren't strong enough, it would be extremely troublesome to deal with them. Moreover, these demonic beasts were probably not simple. Not only that, but there were so many demonic beasts here. Coupled with the demonic beasts' terrifying reproductive ability, just thinking about it made one's scalp tingle. This was a really tricky problem. I feel that just dealing with these demonic beasts should be enough to tire a person to death, right? Shangguan Yingying's lips twitched slightly. This was completely a pile of demonic beasts. Back then, she had thought that it was very difficult to be besieged by demonic beasts in the sea world in the Chaos Ring. However, compared to that, the situation before her eyes was clearly more terrifying. Looks like we're going to be exhausted to death. Bailey Hongzhuang spread out her hands, her cherry blossom-colored lips curling into a wry smile. Then there's nothing we can do. Bewitching chuckled softly. I've long guessed that suffering is unavoidable in the training grounds. It's just that it's more like hard labor now. I don't care. Anyway, there's only one thing to do: kill. Xiren's expression was indifferent. These demonic beasts would only be a disaster if they were left alive. In the next moment, the four of them looked at each other, and then a smile of understanding appeared on their faces. Chapter 3595. It was precisely because of this that the demonic beasts under the sea were all over this line. Without this layer of restriction, the islands behind them would have been completely surrounded by these demonic beasts. If I'm not wrong, these restrictions should be moving forward step by step as the demonic beasts are cleared. The Outer Palace Disciples' training would also help to clear out these demonic beasts. Bailey Hongzhuang spoke slowly. With this layer of restriction, at least they did not have to worry about a sudden attack from the demonic beasts behind them. The danger had undoubtedly decreased by a lot. That should be the case. When Xiren nodded, at least there's still a normal area of the sea, which ensures the safety of the rear. This situation is much better than what we've encountered in the training grounds of the Inner Palace Disciples. Previously, they had always thought that the teleportation formation's vicinity was very safe. They did not expect that not only was it not safe, but they had also fallen into an even more dangerous situation and had almost lost their lives. In comparison, at least the rear here was much safer. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were conversing, the demonic beasts under the sea had already set them as their targets and could not wait to attack them. Not only that, these demonic beasts seemed to be very smart as they slyly launched a sneak attack. While the four of them were still analyzing the surrounding situation, these demonic beasts had already approached their ship and suddenly attacked from under the water. Splash! Water splashed in all directions, blurring everyone's eyes. These demonic beasts were divided into two groups. One group surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang, and the other three, while the other group began to attack their ship with the intention of overturning it. Most cultivators were not very good at fighting underwater. Once they lost their ship, the cultivators would be at a disadvantage when facing the demonic beasts under the sea. When the surrounding cultivators saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three approaching without any scruples, they could not help but feel a little amused. Didn't they say that they were very powerful? Why do I feel that they don't have brains at all? Once the ship capsizes, they will be surrounded by the demonic beasts. It won't be so easy for them to come back after that. Everyone shook their heads. Although the demonic beasts here were not extremely powerful, once they were surrounded, they would fall into an endless battle, regardless of their level of cultivation. As long as they were in such a situation, they would certainly end up in an extremely miserable state. Losing their lives was a common occurrence. However, just as many cultivators were lamenting over Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's lack of brains, the next scene caused their mockery to come to an abrupt end. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three seemed to have predicted this, and they were familiar with the sea demonic beast's sudden attack. Bang bang bang. Those demonic beasts that had launched a sneak attack were all killed in an instant. Not only that, when the silver boat continued to sway, when Xiren directly put the boat away, and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood on the sea very indifferently. Chapter 3596. The surrounding cultivators couldn't help but widen their eyes and look at each other. Some were shocked and some were speechless. According to the information they gathered, weren't Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three newcomers who had just arrived at Penglai Island not long ago? Even if their combat ability on land was very strong, logically speaking, their combat experience on the sea was definitely not rich enough. However, the scene in front of them, who could tell them if their eyes were playing tricks on them? How exactly did they do it? If one were to use their elemental energy to wrap their feet and stand on the surface of the sea, that was something that everyone could do. However, not many cultivators dared to do so because there were simply too many demonic beasts below. As long as they were careless, and those monsters destroyed the circulation of primary energy under their feet, they would directly fall into the sea. If such a situation suddenly occurred during a fight, it would be fatal. Were Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three putting on a show? Almost immediately, this thought appeared in everyone's mind. However, after seeing the relaxed faces of the four, they couldn't help but dismiss this thought because they were too confident. It didn't seem like they were forcing themselves at all. Want to sneak attack us with this little ability? What a joke! Shangguan Yingying curled her lips. They had already noticed the movements of the monsters, so they reacted immediately. One must know that when they were in the Chaos Ring, they were often sneak attacked by monsters. Moreover, the monsters there were much stronger than the monsters here. Thinking back to the time when they were in the oceanic world, they were also flustered by the sneak attacks of these monster beasts, repeatedly falling into danger, leaving countless large and small scars on their bodies. However, it was precisely because of this abnormal abuse that their ability to fight on the sea continued to strengthen. Not only that, even the ability to walk on the sea surface, as if it was flat ground, was also trained under a helpless situation. Because there were too many monsters besieging them, the ship couldn't be stabilized at all. When they were dealing with the monsters, it was difficult for them to divide their attention to stabilize the ship. Gradually, everyone practiced the ability to stand on the sea surface and fight with the monsters directly. However, the process could be said to be very tragic. The strength of these monsters is not strong. They are not a threat to us. After dealing with a wave of monsters, Xiren couldn't help but look at Bewitching next to him. The main purpose of their trip this time was to experience and improve their own cultivation, not to help clear the obstacles. Listening to Xiren's words, Bewitching also understood what he meant and immediately nodded. Indeed, this area seems to be filled with the same kind of monsters. Maybe we can directly go to other islands. Only if the monsters were strong enough would it be useful for them to improve. Otherwise, they wouldn't gain any benefits from this kind of battle. The most important thing was that Bewitching had found that he had a tendency to break through again. Since his physique had changed, he found that his cultivation speed was completely different from the past. Chapter 3597. After Bewitching and when Xiren made their decision, they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang. Both of them nodded in agreement. If that's the case, let's go to the next island directly. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. According to their judgment, the strength of the monsters near these islands increased step by step. Therefore, they could also use this method to find a suitable place for them to train. There was no need to waste time in such a place that was of no help at all. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three immediately changed their direction and prepared to leave. However, just as they were about to leave, a voice suddenly entered their ears. This should be your first time here to train. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but be stunned. They even suspected that they had misheard, and that the other party might not be talking to them at all. After all, with their popularity in the outer palace, they really did not expect anyone to interact with them. However, in the end, the four of them confirmed that the other party was indeed talking to them, because the other party's gaze fell on them. That's right. Bewitching nodded, and his gaze fell on the person who spoke. Speaking of which, the feeling that this cultivator gave them was also very different. The man was wearing the uniform of the Penglai Palace's outer palace disciple. He was not more than 30 years old, and looked particularly young among the group of disciples. His ink-black hair was loose, and looked a little messy. However, it still could not hide his outstanding appearance. Not only that, his clothes were also loose, and not as neat as the others. However, it was this somewhat sloppy appearance that gave people a completely different feeling. The strangest thing was that the other cultivators were all gathered together in groups. Only this cultivator stood alone on the ship. Under such circumstances, the lone cultivator seemed to be more special than them. In this training ground, you can't go anywhere you want to train. If you want to go to the next island, you have to kill 5,000 demonic beasts here. Otherwise, even if you go there, you will be stopped by the restrictions. The young man slowly said. Hearing the other party's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three could not help but look at each other in astonishment. They did not know that this training ground actually had such a rule. Is what you said true? Shengguan Yingying frowned. Once bitten, twice shy. She had already been cheated once. This time, she didn't want to be cheated again. After all, they didn't know the other party at all. It was strange that the other party would be so kind as to warn them. Whether you believe me or not is up to you. The young man glanced at Shengguan Yingying indifferently. He was too lazy to explain anything. Then, he turned around and went to hunt the monsters, as if he didn't want to say anything more. Seeing the man leave directly after warning them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were a little stunned. The other party's temperament seemed to be very special. Hey! Shengguan Yingying stomped her feet. Who is this guy? Didn't I just ask him a question? Is there a need for such an attitude? Chapter 3598. Bailey Hongzhuang was also looking at the figure fighting the demonic beast alone. From that figure, she could faintly feel that this was a person with a story. This guy's popularity can't be worse than ours, right? He's actually alone. Shengguan Yingying curled her lips. She always felt that this guy was strange. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were secretly puzzled, some of the surrounding discussions entered their ears. From this, they had a better understanding of this man. This Ao Lingxiao's temper is really strange. Isn't he usually arrogant and haughty? No matter who spoke to him, he would ignore them. Now he actually took the initiative to talk to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Are you stupid? You still don't understand? Isn't Ao Lingxiao trying to worm his way into being friends with them? Anyway, he's already alone. If he wants to worm his way into being friends with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he doesn't have to worry about offending other cultivators. Who doesn't know that if he gets along well with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it would be extremely helpful for his future development. You're right. This Ao Lingxiao seems to only be interested in talking to cultivators with high statuses. He doesn't even spare a glance for the others. Ao Lingxiao. Di Beichen slowly muttered the man's name. This name is very domineering. It matches his wanton and unrestrained image very well. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. Although according to everyone's discussion, this Ao Lingxiao was a person who climbed up the social ladder. However, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this man was definitely not such a person. This was because she saw a very arrogant look in this man's eyes. Any cultivator with this kind of arrogance would not be such a flattering person. Moreover, if he was really such a person, he wouldn't be alone now. Most importantly, she had a faint feeling that this man's strength was very strong. This Ao Lingxiao is probably not simple. Di Beichen's deep eyes flashed with a wisp of wisdom as he said in a low voice, "He's not weak." He had seen many disciples in the outer hall, but none of them had left a deep impression on him. However, this Ao Lingxiao gave him a very special feeling. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others glanced at each other. They all had the same thought. It was because Ao Lingxiao was able to face so many demonic beasts alone without any fear. Clearly, he had no problem dealing with these demonic beasts. Not only that, but they could also feel that this was not his true strength, and that he was hiding it a little, because only those who were much stronger than these demonic beasts could be so indifferent. Moreover, Ao Lingxiao was much younger than the other cultivators. From this, they were able to determine Ao Lingxiao's uniqueness. In addition to his personality, he was indeed a special person. In my opinion, this guy's popularity is probably worse than ours. I haven't heard anyone say anything good about him until now. Shang Guanyin curled her lips. She felt that it was funny. She didn't know if this was the pot calling the kettle black. We're not much better than him. Is this a kind of consolation for us? Ziren couldn't help but chuckle. He inexplicably had a better impression of Ao Lingxiao. Chapter 3599. That's the only way now. When Ziren nodded, 5,000 demonic beasts. I'm afraid it'll take some time to kill them. Anyway, there are so many demonic beasts here. We don't need to look for them at all. We just need to do it directly. Shangguan Yingying looked indifferent. If each person has 5,000 demonic beasts, the four of us will have to kill 20,000 demonic beasts. In this way, the demonic beasts in front of us will also be cleared out, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. 20,000 demonic beasts is indeed a lot. But the demonic beasts here are extremely dense. Plus there are demonic beasts constantly approaching from behind. Unless we clear out the area in front in a short period of time, it will be filled up very quickly if we take it slow. It was precisely because of this that even though there were so many cultivators gathered here in the outer hall, the clearing speed was still very slow, and it was not easy to make the restriction move forward a little. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Shangguan Yingying's lips suddenly curled into a smile. Since that's the case, why don't we just have a competition to see who can kill 5,000 demonic beasts first? What do you think? As soon as these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at each other, and then a smile appeared on their faces. Okay, let's have a competition. Otherwise just hunting demonic beasts like this is indeed a little boring. When Ziren looked at Di Beichen, Beichen, if I win, you have to personally admit that I'm more handsome than you. Do you think there's any meaning in saying that? Di Beichen raised his eyebrows. The meaning could not be more obvious. As long as one had a discerning eye, one would be able to tell the difference in appearance. This kind of self-deception was really meaningless. As long as I think it's meaningful. When Ziren did not care. I just want you to say it yourself, then I'll feel happy. Di Beichen's lips curled up slightly. Then I'm afraid you don't have any chance. Are you looking down on me? I didn't say that. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying looked at each other. They hadn't even started yet, but Ziren and Di Beichen had already decided on the stakes. Come on, let's start now. When Ziren's eyes flashed with a strong fighting spirit. Beichen is getting more and more arrogant recently. I have no choice but to show my true strength. Let's wait and see. Di Beichen chuckled and took the lead to step forward, approaching the demonic beasts. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two did not stay any longer. The so-called competition was just to add some fun. They really did not want to waste any more time here. The sooner they dealt with these demonic beasts, the sooner they could go to an island that was more suitable for them. However, in the eyes of the other cultivators, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were like wolves in a flock of sheep, sweeping away all obstacles in their way as they fought with the demonic beasts at the bottom of the sea. To everyone, they were usually surrounded by the demonic beasts at the bottom of the sea and needed to be careful when dealing with them. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were not in a defensive position at all, but had directly charged into the encirclement. The encirclement of these demonic beasts was a very difficult thing to deal with in everyone's eyes, but to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it was as if it was not a problem at all. They were completely ignoring it. Chapter 3600. Bewitching was also holding the flowing light sword in his hand. Vigorous Yuanli was constantly emerging. His figure moved quickly like a ghost. Wherever he passed, all the monsters fell. Xiren and Shengguan Yingying were not slow either. Each of the four people had their own unique fighting style. The only thing they had in common was that they killed the monsters at an extremely fast speed. Everyone could only hear the sound of monsters falling into the water. The dark red color of blood spread in the sea, and the smell of blood in the air could not help but become stronger. In fact, around Bailey Hongzhuang's group, many teams were also desperately hunting monsters. However, the four of them were the most eye-catching, because no matter whether it was movement or efficiency, other teams could not compare to them. Even the blood in the sea was the thickest in their area. In the process of hunting monsters, Bailey Hongzhuang's group did not forget to collect the gallbladder. The gallbladder was of great use to cultivators, not to mention that they could also use the gallbladder to exchange points for the heaven and earth treasures they needed for their own cultivation. Although they had not seen the resource warehouse of Penglai Palace, just by thinking about the reputation of Penglai Palace, they knew that the treasures in the resource warehouse were definitely not ordinary. As they encountered more and more strong people now, they were also eager to improve their strength again. I have already killed 200 monsters. Bewitching, don't lose to me. Xiren killed happily, and couldn't help but smile at Bewitching not far away. The strength of the demonic beasts in the Chaos Ring's oceanic world was simply too abnormal. Every time, they could only be abused. Even if their strength had increased, they would find that the demonic beasts that appeared later were even stronger. Therefore, they were always in a state of being suppressed. How could they be as happy as they were now? That's right, it was torture. No matter who it was, after being besieged by monsters stronger than them all day long, suddenly facing monsters weaker than them, they would feel a sense of torture. When Bewitching heard Xiren's words, he couldn't help but turn around and chuckle. Unfortunately, I already have 230. When Xiren's face, which was originally full of smiles, couldn't help but change. When did you become so fast? He thought that his speed was already fast enough, but he didn't expect Bewitching to be even faster than him, and by so much. When you don't know, Bewitching chuckled, you'd better think about what you're going to say after you lose to me. That depends on the final result. When Xiren immediately increased the speed of his hands. His hunting speed, which was already very fast, was now even faster. Everyone could only see that the rate at which the demonic beasts fell was extremely frightening. Among the four people, Bailey Hongzhuang's fighting posture was the most elegant. The gorgeous seven-colored yuan energy attracted everyone's attention like a rainbow. Her graceful figure was like a dance, which was very beautiful. However, the seven-colored light could be said to be the strength to harvest the demonic beasts' lives. Although her posture was elegant, her speed was not inferior to others at all. Chapter 3601. She was used to being abused, so she couldn't help but feel oppressed. Now that she could hunt demonic beasts to her heart's content, she felt relaxed, as if she could expel all the oppressive feelings in her heart. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were hunting demonic beasts with all their might, many of the surrounding cultivators had stopped what they were doing, and their gazes fell on them. Aren't they at the 5th level of the Purple Realm? Can anyone tell me why they look like they're killing chickens? when they're also facing a 5th-level Purple Realm demonic beast? What a bunch of freaks. Seeing them hunt demonic beasts like that, I've lost all my confidence. I finally understand why so many of you fell at their hands. Their ability to fight above their level is a little scary. Just the 5th level of the Purple Realm already has such combat strength. If they break through to the 6th level of the Purple Realm, then they'll be completely incomparable to the Purple Realm 6th level cultivators. For a moment, everyone looked at each other, only thinking that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were completely unreasonable existences. One had to know that there were many cultivators at the 6th level of the Purple Realm here. Even with their level of cultivation, they couldn't help but pay more attention when they were surrounded by demonic beasts. However, cultivators who were 1 level lower than them, in terms of combat strength, were so much stronger than them. This was a blatant slap in the face. Not far away, Ao Lingxiao also stopped what he was doing and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. His dark and deep eyes flashed with a touch of light, and then he quietly retracted his gaze. The corners of his mouth were almost invisible, but there was a trace of a smile. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were bored and stayed on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. They were usually abused, and now they finally had a chance to show off their might, but they could only watch from here. It was really unfair. Sigh, we can't even make a move at such a good time. It's so frustrating. Xiao Hei's face was full of unwillingness. It was usually abused too much, and it also wanted to release it. Xiao Bai shook its head. It can't be helped. Who told Master to have 3 contracted beasts? If we join in, Master will definitely win. Although everyone had contracted beasts now, they still had an absolute advantage in terms of numbers. Actually, you and White Lion don't have to do anything. I only need to do it. In your dreams. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 continued to hunt the demonic beasts, under the shocked gazes of the crowd, an empty space appeared in front of the 4 of them. A vacuum zone. Everyone couldn't help but widen their eyes. This was a situation that would never happen on a normal day. Only by hunting demonic beasts at an extremely fast speed and killing a large number of demonic beasts in a short period of time could one achieve this step. However, how fast were the demonic beasts behind them advancing? It was extremely difficult to do so, which was why it was so difficult to advance through the restriction. However, there were only 4 of them, yet they were able to do this. Wasn't this a little too terrifying? Most importantly, everyone discovered that the demonic beasts at the bottom of the sea seemed to be afraid of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. They actually had a faint feeling of wanting to retreat. What kind of joke was this? Chapter 3602. These monsters are pretty smart. They know that they're no match for us, so they want to run away. Shangguan Yingying looked at the empty space in front of her and couldn't help but laugh. But it's useless for them to run away. We have to kill enough monsters first. When Xiren laughed heartily, with a leap, he charged into the crowd of demonic beasts. Since these demonic beasts were avoiding them, they could only chase after them. As Xiren's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 2 also killed their way into the crowd. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 slaughtering the monsters, the surrounding cultivators were completely dumbfounded. The demonic beasts in front of them were all 5th-level Purple Realm demonic beasts. How could Bailey Hongzhuang and the others kill them as if they were chickens? However, while the crowd was speechless, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 didn't notice at all. This was because they were already used to it. This level of hunting was nothing to them, because what they encountered on a daily basis was much more intense hunting. Not far away, Xue Changdong and the others looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others who were happily killing monsters. The corners of their lips twitched slightly, and their expressions were complicated. Brother Xue, their strength is a little terrifying. Fang Tianyi was a little speechless. He had stayed on the first island for quite some time. It was his first time seeing such a level of hunting on their first hunt. Indeed, Xue Changdong's expression was a little awkward. Even though he already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3's combat strength was extraordinary, this combat strength was indeed a little terrifying. Fang Tianyi frowned. Just based on their strength, it won't be easy for us to attack them. Although they already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three's strength wasn't weak, they thought that there were so many monsters here. In addition to their sneak attack, there was a high chance of success. However, after seeing their combat strength on the sea with their own eyes, the confidence in their hearts couldn't help but decrease a little. There'll be a chance. Xue Changdong glanced at the people around him who lacked confidence. We don't have to rush. I believe there will be a chance. Hearing that, the other cultivators nodded one after another. However, it could be seen from their expressions that they were not fully confident. Xue Changdong was a little speechless. He suddenly felt that the mission he had accepted was a little too tricky, but when he thought about the generous reward, he really couldn't give up. Let's leave this place first. Judging from their situation, I'm afraid that they will soon head to the next island. The strength of the demonic beasts here is not strong enough. Let's wait until the demonic beasts they are dealing with are strong enough to pressure them before we take action. That's all we can do now. When the surrounding cultivators saw Xue Changdong and the others appear here, their eyes were filled with shock. They did not expect Xue Changdong and the others to appear here. Noticing the gazes of the surrounding people, Xue Changdong and the rest looked at each other and quickly left. If they were to be suspected by Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest, then all their efforts would be in vain. Time passed by slowly, and night gradually fell. Many cultivators chose to return. Chapter 3603. Before, most of the cultivators were still busy hunting demonic beasts, and only glanced at the battle of Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 4. Now that everyone had stopped to focus on the battle of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, the feeling of speechlessness in their hearts became even more intense. Comparisons were odious. This was the first thought that came to everyone's mind. This was because the battle of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 did not weaken due to the influence of time. On the contrary, the more they killed, the more ferocious they became. In their line of sight, there was already a large empty area in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3. They had already passed the area where the restriction was, and directly moved forward by more than 100 meters. This was something that would be impossible on a normal day. This was because as long as they passed by all the monsters, they would be surrounded and attacked together. That kind of pressure was not something an ordinary team could withstand. However, not only did Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 move forward by more than 100 meters, but they were also in separate teams. They did not hunt monsters together. This was quite terrifying. This meant that at least each of them could move forward by more than 10 meters on their own. This kind of combat strength made everyone feel ashamed of their inferiority. Bailey Hongzhuang's rainbow primary energy was especially dazzling in the darkness. It was like a rainbow ribbon that lit up the sky. It was magnificent. However, while everyone was admiring this beauty, they were even more amazed by their strength. At least after seeing this scene, they did not have the confidence to fight against Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3, because it was a completely one-sided situation. This is too scary. The combat strength of these 4 definitely surpasses that of an ordinary 5th-level Purple Realm cultivator. I think it's reasonable for Master Long to think highly of them. In fact, this kind of combat strength is indeed a stock with great potential. Their future is limitless. I suddenly feel that Master Long told us to let go of this hatred for our own good. Otherwise, if we were to become enemies with this kind of people, we would be the ones who would not be able to eat or sleep well. They've been fighting for an entire day. Why don't they feel tired at all? It was unknown which cultivator sighed. Everyone's gaze suddenly changed, and then a trace of shock climbed onto their faces. It had been a long time since Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 had appeared. Basically, all the cultivators were exhausted. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were still in high spirits. It was as if they did not feel tired at all. This kind of expression was definitely not feigned. This meant that the essence energy stored in his body was much stronger than theirs. That's not right. We're all at the 5th level of the Purple Realm. Even if they're stronger than us, there shouldn't be too much of a difference. I'm also completely speechless. Perverts really can't be explained with common sense. Normally, When I deal with these demons, I'm not as tired as I am today. Because of them, all the demon beasts are fleeing towards us, causing the pressure on us to increase. That's true. Today is much more tiring than usual. Does this count as the fish in the moat getting caught in the crossfire? The cultivators present looked at each other, and the helplessness in their hearts grew stronger. However, the people involved were completely unaware of how much of an impact their actions had on everyone else. They only wanted to kill the demonic beasts as soon as possible, so that they could obtain victory in this competition. Chapter 3604. Without waiting for Bewitching to reply, Xiren had already taken the lead to talk about his own results. I have already hunted more than 2,000 beasts. Same to you. Bewitching's lips curled slightly as he said casually. Hearing this, Xiren raised his eyebrows. It seems that our results are about the same. You have to be careful that I don't catch up to you. Let's wait and see. Bewitching chuckled. His figure once again turned into a bolt of lightning as he attacked the beasts in the distance. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying looked at Xiren and Bewitching's extremely excited expressions. The two of them also had a faint smile on their faces. Ever since they set off for Penglai Island, the four of them had been relying on each other for survival. This feeling of going out hand in hand was really good. Originally, the beasts outside the restriction were all gathered together. But now, as Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three hunted, a circular vacuum area was constantly expanding. The surrounding beasts could not help but flee in all directions. However, because there were more beasts behind them, they could not escape quickly. So they could only die at the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three. The surrounding cultivators left one by one, because continuing to stay here was really too exciting. It would completely destroy their self-confidence. Unknowingly, most of the nearby teams had already left. Only Bailey Hongzhuang's team of four was still fighting. In addition, there was also a figure who did not leave like the other teams. Instead, he stood in place and watched the four kill the beasts. As time gradually passed, the interest in Ao Lingxiao's eyes became more and more intense. He found this team to be really interesting. Their outstanding combat strength was even more outstanding than many of the amazing people in the inner hall and the outer hall. It would be great if a few more of such interesting people appeared in Penglai Palace. While Ao Lingxiao was paying attention to Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, they also noticed Ao Lingxiao who had not left. Up until now, they still didn't know what Ao Lingxiao was thinking. First, he inexplicably reminded them. Then he acted as if he was very interested in them. From beginning to end, Ao Lingxiao didn't say a word to them. If he was on good terms with them, then he could definitely communicate with them more. However, if he was an enemy, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had a feeling that this was not the case. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three did not make a move. Sooner or later, they would know Ao Lingxiao's true thoughts. Above the sea, many cultivators couldn't help but observe the situation on the surface of the sea after they returned to the island. In this night, the radiance of the origin energy was even brighter. Therefore, even though they were quite far away, everyone could still determine the situation of the four people. However, as time went on, everyone became speechless. Even if their origin power is abnormal, they should be tired after such a high-intensity battle. I suddenly remember the scene when they faced more than 200 cultivators in the outer hall. Not only is their combat strength terrifying, but their endurance is also quite shocking. I don't know how they cultivate. They are so terrifying at such a young age. Chapter 3605. Finally, when the night was at its darkest, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three boarded a small boat and returned to the island. Seeing that the four of them had finally returned, many cultivators breathed a sigh of relief. Previously, they had even thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three would fight until dawn. Fortunately, the situation was not as exaggerated as they had imagined. The four of them have finally returned. It seems that the yuan power in their bodies has been exhausted. After fighting for such a long time, it is indeed time for them to return. Even if they have only fought until now, the density of their yuan power has completely surpassed ours. If possible, I really want to know how they usually cultivate and why they are so much stronger than us." Quite a number of cultivators nodded their heads one after another when these words were spoken. If there was only one person in this four-man group who was strong, it could be said that his talent was extraordinary. However, since all four of them were so strong, it was likely that it had a lot to do with their cultivation methods. Every genius cultivator was not only talented, but their cultivation methods were also different. After all, none of the cultivators present were mediocre to have reached this stage. However, the difference was still so obvious, so it must be related to their cultivation methods. Xiren sat on the ground. His elegant and handsome face was now filled with a thick gloominess. "I never thought that I would lose to you in the end. Bewitching, your performance today is a little abnormal." Just thinking about the previous situation, Xiren was speechless. Thinking back to when he had killed more than 200 monsters, Bewitching had surpassed him by a few dozen. Later on, he increased his hunting speed. However, he never thought that Bewitching would be ahead of him by a whole 1,000 monsters. 1,000 monsters. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Xiren would not have dared to believe this result. Even if Bewitching was stronger than him, it should not be by this much. A total of 5,000 monsters. Bewitching had killed 1,000 more than him. This gap was too big. Bewitching glanced at Xiren, a devilish smile on his picturesque face. "I already told you not to compete with me. This result is not surprising. Even if you are stronger than me, when we were training together a few days ago, you were not this much stronger than me." Xiren was a little speechless. He swore that Bewitching's strength this time was definitely much stronger than before. Not only did he leave him in the dust, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying were also left in the dust. The four of them were obviously at the same cultivation level, but Bewitching was so much faster than them. This was the problem. Looking at Xiren's confused expression, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. Bewitching has already touched the bottleneck of the 6th level of the Purple Realm. If all goes well, he will break through in a few days. You will definitely lose if you compete with him. Even if they were both at the 5th level of the Purple Realm, a cultivator who had touched the bottleneck and a cultivator who was in the middle were completely different. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, when Xiren finally understood, he stared at Bewitching with wide eyes. "So this is the problem. You hit it too deeply." Bewitching spread his hands. "I did not hide it. It was you who did not notice." Chapter 3606. When Xiren looked dispirited as he sighed. "Ever since we were young, I've only surpassed your cultivation during the period when your cultivation speed was suppressed. Now that I've been caught up, I feel that I won't have any chance to surpass you in the future." Following Xiren's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but chuckle. "I think you are right. I'm afraid it will be like this in the future." Shangguan Yingying patted Xiren's shoulder and comforted. "Before Bewitching transformed into the body of destiny, you had never been able to surpass him. Now Bewitching's physique is one of the most suitable physiques for cultivation. I'm afraid it will be impossible for you to surpass him in the future." Xiren pretended to be sad and leaned on Shangguan Yingying's shoulder. "Sigh. I'm so sad. But maybe I will change into a heaven-defying physique in the future. Then there is a chance for me to make a comeback. Otherwise, I can only be second to Bewitching for the rest of my life." "Xiren, that is not necessarily the case," Shangguan Yingying said slowly. Hearing this, Xiren's eyes lit up. "Yingying, do you believe that I still have a chance to win?" Shangguan Yingying shook her head. "You said that you will always be second, but I don't think that is necessarily the case. With Hongzhuang here, you may go from second to third." "Haha." Shangguan Yingying covered the corner of her mouth and snickered. "So if you don't work hard to cultivate, you may become fourth." Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three laughed and talked. Some of the surrounding cultivators also heard their conversation, but they were completely speechless. Killed them all? 5,000 demonic beasts. They actually killed them all in a single day. For a moment, everyone couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Not many people in the entire Penglai Palace could achieve such a result. It turned out that they didn't come back to rest because their primary energy was exhausted, but because they had completed the hunting mission of 5,000 monsters. This meant that their primary energy was not exhausted yet. Suddenly, everyone couldn't help but curse in a low voice. Even if their strength was extraordinary, it shouldn't be so exaggerated. However, no one knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three were completely used to being abused. Whether it was the utilization of their primary energy or their endurance, it was much better than before. After all, it was the best way to improve their strength in a life-and-death situation. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze turned to Ao Lingxiao in the distance. She had noticed that Ao Lingxiao had been watching them during the battle, but when they finished their mission, Ao Lingxiao had already left. In their line of sight, Ao Lingxiao was still alone in the darkness. He seemed out of place with the team around him. There were clearly many people around, but he gave off the feeling that he was the only one here. Wife, what are you looking at? Bewitching was just about to cultivate to recover his primary energy when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang looking in another direction. He couldn't help but ask. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, he also saw Ao Lingxiao alone in the distance. Are you thinking about why he is talking to us? Bailey Hongzhuang's birthday celebration. Although I don't know the reason, I feel that he is also a person with a story. Chapter 3607. Although everyone's comments about him aren't good, I have a feeling that this guy has a gentleman's heart under his unrestrained appearance. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her head slightly and saw Bewitching's confident black eyes. Her lips slowly curled into a bright smile. Your intuition has always been accurate. Nighttime was always a nightmare for the inner palace disciples. Skeletons would appear, liches would chant, and generals would attack. The slightest carelessness would cost them their lives. However, as inner palace disciples, they had no choice but to appear here to increase their cultivation and for the stability of the Shengxian continent. Big brother, how are you? Ren Zimei looked at Ren Ziheng worriedly. Previously, Ren Ziheng had fought the skeleton general alone. The skeleton general was simply too powerful. Even though Ren Ziheng had used all his strength, there were still many wounds on his body. At that time, she had tried her best to help Ren Ziheng, but she had been surrounded by the skeleton army. She could only watch as Ren Ziheng was alone and helpless. Ren Ziheng shook his head and looked at his right hand that was almost broken. At that moment, only a few bones were connected to his flesh. It was as if the slightest pull would completely separate it from his body. The power of darkness lingered on the wound, causing it to show no signs of healing. On the contrary, it was constantly worsening. Don't worry, I'm fine. Ren Ziheng comforted Ren Zimei. However, looking at Ren Ziheng's pale face, his words were not convincing at all. Damn it, ordinary healing medicine is completely useless. Ren Zimei could not help but curse. The sky was already bright, but Ren Ziheng's injuries were very serious. If they did not stop the bleeding soon, the situation would become very bad. Chu Jinfeng's face was also very ugly. It's a pity that we didn't manage to get the healing medicine from the demonic training tower this time. This is really bad. At that moment, Ren Zimei suddenly thought of something and said, That's right. Didn't junior sister Bailey give us some healing medicine before we set off? She said that the healing medicine is very effective. Why don't we try it? Hearing Ren Zimei's words, Chu Jinfeng felt a little helpless. Junior sister Bailey is so young, and the healing medicine was personally made by her. I'm afraid the effects won't be very good, right? So far, apart from the healing medicine that the demonic training tower had brought out, none of the other healing medicines had any effect on the dark energy. If it was that easy to concoct, the doctors and alchemists of the 100 Flowers Gate would have concocted it long ago. Why would they wait until now? Ren Zimei sighed. Her expression was a little ugly. But we have no other way now except for this method. Let's give it a try. Then let's give it a try, Chu Jinfeng said. In the next moment, Ren Zimei immediately took out the medicine that Bailey Hongzhuang had given her and sprinkled it on Ren Ziheng's wound. Ren Zimei's eyes were fixed on Ren Ziheng's wound. Although she knew that it was unlikely to work, she still had a glimmer of hope in her heart. What if it was true? What if there was a miracle? Although the probability of this happening was shockingly small, she was still looking forward to it. However, it didn't take long for the following scene to stun everyone. Chapter 3608. Seeing this, Ren Zimei and the others could not help but hold their breaths as they stared fixedly at Ren Zixing's wound. They could not help but wonder if their eyes were playing tricks on them. This healing medicine actually had a restraining effect on the dark energy. However, when they saw the same look of shock in the other party's eyes, they knew that their eyes were not playing tricks on them. The medicine was truly effective. The wound is actually healing. Ren Zimei cried out in shock as she stared at Ren Ziheng's wound in astonishment. Even though she had been holding on to a sliver of hope, she knew very well that this was basically impossible. However, this was actually happening right now. The dark energy is fading away. Based on the speed of its fading, it seems to be much more effective than the healing medicine from the Devil Training Tower. Chu Jinfeng widened his eyes as his face filled with disbelief. That's right, the effect is indeed much better than the healing medicine from before. I can feel my wound healing, and the pain is also showing signs of lessening. A sense of joy appeared on Ren Ziheng's face. His wound was very serious. If he did not find a way to deal with the dark energy as soon as possible, he could very well lose too much blood and become seriously injured or even die. Even though he had been comforting Ren Zimei, his heart was still very pessimistic. He never thought that such a turn of events would appear, just as he was on the brink of death. How could he not be overjoyed? I never thought that Junior Sister Bailey's healing medicine would be so effective. This is simply too shocking. Ren Zimei could not help but stare blankly. Her medical skills are just too amazing. Chu Jinfeng nodded as his expression filled with joy. Indeed, when she had first mentioned it, I did not believe her at all. I only thought that she was being too full of herself. After all, it's simply too difficult to develop a healing medicine that can overcome the dark energy. I never thought that Junior Sister Bailey's healing medicine would actually have such an effect. This means that her medical skills are just too exquisite. This is really unexpected. It seems that we've underestimated Junior Sister Bailey. Her medical skills are not just average. Ren Ziheng slowly said. I remember the last time they accidentally came to the training ground. Junior Sister Bailey had been studying our wounds. At that time, I didn't take it to heart. But now it seems that she did have some insights from her research, so she went back and concocted this healing medicine. Hearing Ren Ziheng's words, Ren Zimei and Chu Jinfeng both nodded. You're right. We didn't take it to heart before, but it turns out that it's all true. At this moment, Ren Ziheng and the other two looked at the healing medicine in their hands in a completely different light. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang had given them the healing medicine, they hadn't thought much of it. It was only because they didn't want to go against Bailey Hongzhuang's wishes that they reluctantly accepted it. They hadn't thought that this healing medicine would be such a heaven-defying treasure. In this training ground, it was completely their life-saving method. Now that I think about it, we were a little too rude when Junior Sister Bailey handed us the healing medicine. Ren Zimei's expression was a little awkward. Next time when we go back, we must properly thank Junior Sister Bailey. Chapter 3609. For a time, Bailey Hongzhuang's position in the hearts of Ren Ziheng and the others had completely changed. In terms of medical skills, Bailey Hongzhuang had already surpassed many famous doctors. Once Bailey Hongzhuang took out this healing medicine, the sensation it would cause could be imagined. This was a healing medicine that was even more amazing than the one from the Imo refining tower. After using the healing medicine, Ren Ziheng's injuries immediately improved. The dark power gradually faded away. Although it had not completely disappeared, the damage it had done to the wounds had decreased. The wounds gradually healed. As long as this continued, Ren Ziheng's life would not be in danger. He would be able to recover in a little more time. This scene did not escape the eyes of the other cultivators. After yesterday's battle, everyone believed that Ren Ziheng's life would be lost. So many people paid attention to him and felt sorry for him. Suddenly, everyone saw Ren Zimei take out a bottle of healing medicine. Ren Ziheng's injuries which were already extremely bad, suddenly began to improve. A touch of color gradually appeared on his pale face. This scene completely exceeded everyone's expectations. Suddenly, everyone's eyes lit up as they looked at the healing medicine in Renzime's hand. Is the healing medicine that Renzime took out the same as the one from the demonic tower? I don't think so. This time, the Pringlai Palace sold very little healing medicine. They were all sold out long ago. When Renzime returned to the inner palace, the healing medicine was already gone. If I am not wrong, this healing medicine seems to be more effective than the other healing medicine. Renziheng's injuries are so serious. Even with the healing medicine from the demonic tower, he will not be able to recover in a short time. But now, the dark power in Renziheng's wounds has clearly decreased. This is not right. Everyone's gazes fell on Renziheng, and the other two. They were almost certain that the other party had used a completely different kind of healing medicine. Moreover, this healing medicine's effects were extraordinarily good. If they could have this kind of healing medicine, then their survival in the training ground would be greatly increased. Although the dark power could not be completely eliminated, it could be suppressed so much that it would not affect them much. Thinking of this, some of the cultivators who had a good relationship with Renziheng and the others approached. Renzime, what medicine did you use just now? Jing Tianling walked over to Renzime's side. Renziheng's injuries are so serious, but after using the medicine, he seems to have improved a lot. As soon as Jing Tianling finished speaking, the other cultivators started asking questions one after another. Yeah, what kind of medicine is this? I don't think we've met before. Right now, the healing medicine sold by the Magic Refining Tower is very popular. It's not easy to buy it unless we go outside to buy it. However, we don't have the time. Renzime, if you have better healing medicine, don't hide it. After all, we're all teammates. We can buy some next time. That's right. The Inner Palace disciples are all one family. Just tell us. Realizing that everyone's attention had fallen upon them, the faces of Renzime's team of three stiffened. They could not stop themselves from exchanging glances, complicated looks on their faces. Chapter 36:10. However, none of them had expected the medicine to be so effective. It had completely exceeded their expectations. As a result, the situation became even more complicated. Everyone had discovered the uniqueness of the medicine and began to ask them about it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had given them the medicine. Apart from that, Bailey Hongzhuang did not seem to have told anyone else about it. If they told everyone that the medicine was made by Bailey Hongzhuang, who knew if it would cause trouble for Bailey Hongzhuang? The fact that Bailey Hongzhuang had given them the medicine proved that she truly treated them as good friends. After all, once the effects of the medicine were made known, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Now that she had told them about it without telling anyone else, they could not betray her trust in them. Even if they wanted to tell anyone, they had to obtain Bailey Hongzhuang's permission first. Otherwise, they could not bring unnecessary trouble to Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, the greater the benefit, the more attention it would attract. Perhaps some people with dark intentions would want to take the medicine for themselves. As a result, Renzime and the others only glanced at each other and made a decision. Before they obtained Bailey Hongzhuang's permission, they would not tell anyone about it. We only obtained the medicine by chance. We had no idea that it would be effective at all. We're just trying our best, Renzime said slowly. Jing Tianlang and the others could not help but frown when they heard Renzime's words. They clearly did not believe her. Renzime, we're good friends no matter what. We've fought side by side many times over the years. You really shouldn't keep something good to yourself, right? That's right. Even if you tell us where the medicine came from, it won't cause any harm to you. Everyone frowned, and some reluctance appeared on their faces. Clearly, they did not believe Renzime's explanation. Without a doubt, she was deliberately hiding it from them. Looking at everyone's reaction, Renzime and the other two felt somewhat helpless. They knew all too well just how much everyone wanted this healing medicine that could restrain the power of darkness. As long as such a medicine appeared, no one would give it up. For a time, They felt extremely depressed. If he were to reveal the origin of the medicine, he would undoubtedly be letting down Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. But if he didn't say anything, he was afraid that everyone would be estranged from them. If they had known earlier, they would have believed Bailey Hongzhuang's words and paid more attention when using the healing medicine. Then this situation wouldn't have happened. However, it was useless to think about it now. It's not that we don't want to tell you. It's just that we came across this healing medicine by chance. We really don't know where it came from. Ren Ziheng said slowly, "If I had known in advance that this healing medicine was so effective, I would have used it when I was injured. Why would I wait until I was on the brink of death to give it a try? Besides, if we really don't want to tell you, we can't possibly use this healing medicine in public. Wouldn't that be asking for trouble?" Chapter 36:11. If Ren Zimei said that she didn't know before, everyone didn't believe it. But at this moment, hearing Ren Ziheng's explanation, everyone gradually believed it. Because they clearly noticed that when Ren Ziheng and the other two discovered the effect of the healing medicine, they also showed a surprised expression. It could be seen that they didn't know anything about this situation before. "Then where did you get this healing medicine?" Jing Tianling couldn't help but ask. "When we returned to the inner hall, we went to the restaurant of Penglai Island to eat. During the meal, we met a person who called himself a doctor. We had a good chat, so he gave us some healing medicine, saying that the effect was excellent. However, we saw that the other party was very young, so we didn't believe what he said at all. We just thought that he was blowing his own trumpet. For the sake of the other party's face, we still accepted the healing medicine, but no one took it seriously. Just now, because my injury was too serious, ordinary healing medicine had no effect. Ren Zimei suddenly thought of this healing medicine, so we wanted to give it a try. I just didn't expect that what the young doctor said was actually true. The effect of this healing medicine is so good, and it can even restrain the dark power. It's really surprising." Ren Ziheng told the truth half-truthfully. He did get this healing medicine from the hands of a young doctor. He also got it when he was eating in the restaurant, but this person was also their Penglai Palace's disciple. Listening to Ren Ziheng's words, everyone couldn't help but look at each other. Although there were still some doubts in their hearts, they felt that what he said might be true. So that's how it is. I don't know which doctor has such superb medical skills. You didn't contact him after that? Everyone was still a little unwilling. If they could know this doctor, then their life-saving means in this place in the future would be strengthened a lot. Ren Ziheng shook his head regretfully. "At that time, we just happened to meet and had a good chat. He gave us some healing medicine, and we didn't think that he would be so powerful, so we didn't take it seriously. If I knew this, I would definitely ask where he lived, but now I really don't know where to find him. I only hope that I can meet him again next time in the restaurant of Penglai Palace." Chu Jinfeng sighed. "You really can't judge a book by its cover. If that doctor wasn't so young, we wouldn't have ignored him. We really missed a great opportunity this time. Which restaurant did you guys go to? What does that doctor look like?" Ren Ziheng and the others casually made up some news and told it to everyone. Although it was obviously a lie, it was well made up and successfully deceived everyone. After sending everyone away, the three of them couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. We finally managed to deceive everyone. Fortunately, Big Brother's reaction was fast enough. Otherwise, we would be in trouble. No matter what, as Inner Palace disciples, they'd always been training with everyone else. If they were to offend everyone because of this matter, then it would be extremely disadvantageous to their future development in the Inner Palace. Chapter 36:12. Chu Jinfeng nodded. "Today's situation is really beyond our expectations. We should have tested it earlier. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fallen into such an awkward situation just now. Who would have thought that junior sister Bailey's medical skills would be so exquisite? If it were anyone else, they would probably have the same reaction as us." Ren Zimei shook her head and sighed. "But the situation now has no impact on us. The next time we go back, we really have to thank junior sister Bailey. If junior sister Bailey is willing to sell the healing medicine, I think junior sister Bailey will soon be very popular in the Punglai Palace. Chu Jinfeng's eyes lit up, and a smile appeared on the corner of his lips. Previously, I thought that junior sister Bailey and the other three's popularity in the outer palace was too low. Now it seems that I don't have to worry too much. Once she releases the news, I'm afraid that not only the cultivators in the outer palace, but also the cultivators in the inner palace will take the initiative to get closer to her. What you said is true. Run Ziheng chuckled. A capable doctor will always be welcomed by everyone at any time. I suddenly feel that we are very lucky. If junior sister Bailey and the others hadn't met us by accident, I'm afraid the situation would be different now. Run Zimei and the other two exchanged glances. Then smiles appeared on their faces. The next day, a touch of dawn appeared in the sky. Many cultivators on the island once again took the boat to the distant sea, intending to start the next day's hunting. Among these cultivators, it was not that no one had completed the hunting mission of 5,000 monsters, but they did not have enough confidence in hunting the monsters on the next island, so they had been staying here. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three did not delay at all, and directly went to the next island early in the morning. Obviously, the next island also needed to hunt a certain number of monsters before they could continue. In the next few days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three had been hunting wicked beasts on the island, but the strength of the wicked beasts in front of them was a certain gap, so it was not difficult to solve them. However, according to their observations, the amount of monstrous beasts in this training ground was truly not an ordinary amount. Moreover, the types of monstrous beasts were extremely complicated, and they all specialized in different things. We have been hunting demonic beasts for the past few days. We are now on the 5th island. This speed is pretty fast. Xiren smiled faintly as his gaze fell upon the island in the distance. Bewitching nodded. These demon beasts are getting stronger and stronger. According to my estimation, we'll have to stay on the next island, or the 2nd island. That's right. It's no longer that easy for me to deal with these demonic beasts. I'm afraid I'll have to do my best to deal with them when we reach the next island, Shengguan Yingying said slowly. The further we go, the fewer cultivators there will be on this island. The pressure we will have to bear when hunting demonic beasts will also increase. However, in this way, we can settle on an island and cultivate in peace. It will be of great benefit to our cultivation. Chapter 36:13. Everything went as Bewitching had expected. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others chose the 2nd island. The demonic beasts in the vicinity of the island were extremely powerful. Even with their strength, they had to be careful everywhere. If they were not careful, they would be injured. However, they also knew that only in such an environment could they increase their cultivation at the fastest speed. However, there was one thing that exceeded their expectations. After they stopped on this island, Ao Lingxiao also came to this island. Look, isn't that Ao Lingxiao? Since when did he become so strong? I remember that he had always been training on the 1st island. I don't know. This guy's actions have always been strange. I don't know what kind of opportunity he got, but his strength suddenly increased. The cultivators on the island looked at Ao Lingxiao with astonishment in their eyes. Ao Lingxiao's special order to travel alone was very eye-catching in the outer palace. However, no one went to find trouble with him on normal days. In this training ground, the further back the island was, the less likely it was for new cultivators to appear. In the past few days, there were only 5 people. They were Bailey Hongzhuang's group and Ao Lingxiao's group. In contrast, the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others was not strange, because the strength of these 4 people was indeed very strong, and everyone already knew about it. Then why is Ao Lingxiao following us? I feel that it's very strange. Shengguan Yingying looked at Ao Lingxiao not far away in confusion. Ever since Ao Lingxiao appeared, they felt that everything was very strange. If Ao Lingxiao's inexplicable warning made them feel very strange, but they could still understand it. However, Ao Lingxiao's attention to them, and his following them to this island, made them feel somewhat puzzled. The most important thing was that Ao Lingxiao had not said anything to them until now, which made them feel very puzzled. Bailey Hongzhuang also had a trace of doubt in her eyes. I also don't understand. Right now, I can be sure that he is following us on purpose. However, I don't know the specific reason. Aside from being taken care of by Master Long, there is nothing special about the four of us. Hasn't this guy always been alone and ignored everyone? Now it's really strange. Ziren frowned. Should I go and ask? Bewitching shook his head. His expression was very calm. Since he took the initiative to follow us, he must have his reasons. If he wants to say it, he will tell us directly. If he doesn't want to say it, you won't be able to get anything out of him. Now, hearing Bewitching's words, Ziren couldn't help but sigh. He said he was really not as calm as Bewitching. Aya, how can you guys be so calm? I really can't hold. In the next second, Shangguan Yingying stood up and walked towards Ao Lingxiao. She had to find out what this guy was doing. Seeing that Shangguan Yingying had directly set off, Bailey Hongzhuang was just about to call out to her when she was stopped by Bewitching. Forget it. Since she wants to go, then let her go. Otherwise, with her personality, I'm afraid she won't be satisfied. Chapter 36:14. Shangguan Yingying walked to Ao Lingxiao's side. Her face was filled with confusion and anger. Ao Lingxiao, why have you been following us? Ao Lingxiao was not surprised by Shangguan Yingying's sudden questioning. I didn't expect you to ask me so soon. I thought you could hold on for a few more days. What nonsense is this? Why do you care when I ask you? Shangguan Yingying's anger turned into anger. Tell me clearly. Why have you been following us? No reason. Ao Lingxiao said slowly. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but sneer. Are you kidding? You've been following us for no reason? Don't tell me you have nothing better to do? You can think of it that way. Ao Lingxiao's lips curled into an evil smile. He twirled his messy hair with one hand, looking a little rogue. Looking at Ao Lingxiao like this, Shangguan Yingying only felt the anger in her heart rising. This guy was too hateful. If you don't tell me the truth, I'll treat you as an enemy. Shangguan Yingying's eyes gradually darkened. She didn't have a good temper to accompany Ao Lingxiao here. Ao Lingxiao had been sneaking around without giving a proper reason. She could only treat him as an enemy. Not far away, Ziren saw Shangguan Yingying's gradually darkening expression and couldn't help but frown. It seems that Yingying's inquiry didn't go well. Maybe they'll fight in the next second. I'll go take a look. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other and said, Let's go together. Okay. When Bewitching and the others came to Shangguan Yingying's side, they could feel the smell of gunpowder coming from her body. She was obviously enraged. Yingying, what's the situation now? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Shangguan Yingying coldly glanced at Ao Lingxiao. I asked this guy, but he didn't say anything. Ao Lingxiao looked at Bewitching and the other two with a faint smile. I'm just here to train. Is there a problem? There's naturally no problem for you to cultivate here. Bewitching's black pupils were as deep and unfathomable as a black hole. He looked at Ao Lingxiao with a gaze that seemed to be able to see through everything. You and I are both smart people. You must have followed us here for a reason. If you don't want us to treat you as an enemy, you might as well tell us. Bewitching's voice was mild, as if he was chatting casually. However, an invisible pressure quietly spread out. Ao Lingxiao faced Bewitching's sharp gaze and was ultimately defeated. Forget it. I don't intend to be your enemy. You don't have to mind it too much, Ao Lingxiao said slowly. Then why are you following us? When Ziren followed up with another question, a hint of hesitation quietly appeared on Ao Lingxiao's face. In the end he said, I've been following you because I want to confirm one thing. When these words came out, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but be stunned. They were even more confused in their hearts. They didn't understand what Ao Lingxiao wanted to confirm from them. Confirm what? Chapter 36:15. Hearing Ao Lingxiao's explanation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others frowned even more. What is it that you can't say? The puzzlement between when Ziren's brows grew even stronger. You're so strange, it's really too suspicious. I can swear that I have no intention of harming you behind your backs. Otherwise, I'll be struck by lightning. Ao Lingxiao raised 3 fingers and looked serious. If I'm sure of something, I'll tell you immediately. If I'm wrong, I won't disturb you anymore. Seeing this, Xiren couldn't help but look at Bewitching. He always felt that Ao Lingxiao was weird, which made him very unhappy. Bewitching stared at Ao Lingxiao. His deep eyes kept changing. I'll believe you for now. I'm indeed trustworthy. Ao Lingxiao's lips curled up. His smile was a bit evil and indifferent. After Bewitching and the others returned to their original position, Xiren couldn't help but say, Bewitching, do you really believe this guy? I feel that this guy is too weird. For the time being, I believe him. That guy's appearance is very special. I am certain that we didn't see Ao Lingxiao in the battle in the outer hall. As of now, I can't think of any reason why he would want to be our enemy. If he really is an enemy, he could hide in the dark and think of ways to deal with us. He wouldn't follow us so openly. The success rate is too low. Hearing Bewitching's words, Xiren's eyes gradually revealed a look of realization. You're right. But I really don't understand what this guy wants to confirm from us. I don't know either. Bewitching shook his head. They didn't know Ao Lingxiao before. What could Ao Lingxiao want to confirm from them? This was very strange to begin with. In my opinion, let's put this matter aside for now. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. As long as Ao Lingxiao doesn't cause trouble for us, he can follow us if he wants. It's not a big deal. They were only here to train, so there was no need for them to hide anything. When Xue Changdong found out which island Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 had stopped at, his face turned ugly. Brother Xue, they stopped at the 7th island. The strength of the demonic beasts near the 7th island is very strong. Although we can deal with the demonic beasts near the 7th island, it is very dangerous. Everyone should train near the 6th island. Fang Tianyi looked at Xue Changdong. He had never imagined that Bewitching's group of 4 would be so monstrous as to head to the 7th island. In their team, Xue Changdong's strength was the strongest. Xue Changdong had no problem cultivating near the 7th island, but the other cultivators in their team were not as strong. After all, Xue Changdong was their captain and the strongest. The other teammates were not as strong as Xue Changdong. Chapter 36:16. Although he was very depressed about this, Xue Changdong also understood in his heart that perhaps this was the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 were stronger than ordinary cultivators. It was because they were really too desperate. This was a completely masochistic cultivation method. With his strength, he could withstand going to the 7th island, but he needed to be careful everywhere. If he was careless, he would be injured. It was very dangerous. It was precisely because of this that he chose to cultivate on the 6th island. It also had the function of training, but it was safer. It was just that the speed of cultivation would be slightly slower. If they stay on the 7th island, it won't be easy for us to find a way to deal with them. Fang Tianyi looked helpless. He originally thought that this was a good task. Who would have thought that it would be so complicated? It actually made him feel helpless. Xue Changdong's face was slightly gloomy. Originally, he hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang and the other 3 would stay on the 6th island. He was most familiar with the 6th island, so it would be much easier for him to find a way to deal with them. He did not expect that things would not go as he wished. The situation was completely complicated. For a moment, Xue Changdong even wanted to tell Peng Kairue that he could not complete this task because the difficulty was a little too high. However, in the end, after thinking about it, Xue Changdong decided to wait a little longer. He only hoped that a good opportunity would appear in the end. However, at this moment, Penglai Palace suddenly issued a new task in this training ground. As soon as this task was announced, all the disciples in the outer palace were attracted by this task. In a short period of time, all the cultivators in the training ground were discussing this new task. Penglai Palace has issued a new mission. A new island has suddenly appeared in this training ground. There are many demon beasts gathered on the island. Now they are issuing a mission for us to go to the island to hunt demon beasts. Shangguan Yingying's eyes lit up. Are you guys interested? I heard that every time a new island appears, there always seems to be some treasure on it. Although I don't know what kind of treasure it is, It's not bad to go and check it out. They had never been well informed, but recently, almost all the cultivators were discussing this matter, so they also knew about it. As far as I know, the islands that appear for the first time are usually very dangerous. If you are not careful, you may lose your life. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. At present, everyone only knows that a new island has appeared, but we don't know what kind of demonic beasts are on this island. We still have to be more careful. Bewitching nodded slightly. Indeed, we'd better not act rashly before figuring out the specific situation. The more information we have, the more insurance we can have. No matter what, this was the first time they had come to this training ground. They didn't know much about the situation here, and they didn't know what the situation was like when the new island appeared. Plus, it was obvious that no one would tell them about the previous situation, so they couldn't act rashly for the time being. Now many cultivators are ready to make a move. They are thinking about how and when to head to the new island. Let's act according to the situation, when Xiren said. Chapter 36:17. I didn't expect God to treat us so well. Now such a great opportunity has appeared. Xue Changdong clapped his hands. His originally ugly face instantly regained its vigor. It was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He was originally reluctant to give up the reward after success. Moreover, he didn't know how to explain to Peng Kairui if he gave up. Now that such an opportunity had appeared, it was simply pointing him in the right direction. Brother Xue, although the appearance of a new island is indeed an opportunity, the strength of the demonic beasts on each new island is very powerful. I'm afraid that even if we go there, it won't be easy to find an opportunity to take action. Feng Tiany's brows were still furrowed. He didn't understand why Xue Changdong was suddenly so excited. It was as if he already knew that they would succeed. No matter what, such an opportunity has appeared. It's better than us not knowing what to do before. Xue Changdong's face was still filled with joy. Originally, it wouldn't be easy to just rely on us to set them up. But now almost all the cultivators will go to the new island. The size of the island isn't small. Everyone's actions will definitely be very chaotic. We can take this opportunity to think of a way to set them up. Maybe we don't even need to do anything. Just by relying on the power of the demonic beasts, we can accomplish all of this effortlessly. Brother Xue is right. At least we still have a chance of success. Every time a new island appears, a lot of cultivators will die. It's already very dangerous. In addition, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three don't have any allies. As long as no one helps them, our actions will be very easy. Hearing that, Feng Tianyi nodded. Indeed. I hope they will also appear on the new island. Not long after the mission was released, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three noticed that many cultivators on the 7th island had stood up and decided to go to the new island. It was said that the rewards for killing the demonic beasts on the new island would be very generous. Anyway, everyone had to risk their lives to hunt demonic beasts here. Going to the new island was also risking their lives. Since the danger was similar, naturally, they would choose the place with higher benefits. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three weren't in a hurry. However, not long after, all the cultivators on the 7th island had left. The originally lively island suddenly became deserted. However, at that moment, other than Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, there was still one person who hadn't left. That person was Ao Lingxiao. Seeing that Ao Lingxiao was still there, Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but ask, "Hey, everyone has already set off for the new island. Why are you still here?" "I'm not interested in the new island. I'm only interested in you guys." The corner of Ao Lingxiao's lips curled up. "If you go, I'll go with you. If you don't, I won't go either." Looking at Ao Lingxiao's indifferent expression, Shengguan Yingying rolled her eyes. Incurable, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were somewhat helpless towards Ao Lingxiao. They didn't know what this guy was really doing, but they could still feel that Ao Lingxiao really didn't have any intention of harming them. "Let's go," Bewitching said slowly. "Since everyone has already set off, there's no point in us staying here. Why don't we go and take a look?" Chapter 36:18. After seeing Bewitching and the other three set off, Ao Lingxiao stood up and followed behind Bewitching and the other three. Sitting on the small boat, Shangguan Yingying looked at the small boat that was following them with a helpless expression. This Ao Lingxiao is really a follower. Are you going to let him continue to follow us like this? What else can we do? Bewitching raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile. I think there must be something wrong with this guy's sneaky behavior. Why don't we capture him and interrogate him? We'll definitely know the answer. Shangguan Yingying squinted her eyes, and a ruthless look flashed across her eyes. Ziren shook his head and said, Forget it. According to Beichin and my observation, this guy is probably stronger than us. It's impossible to capture him and interrogate him. Stronger than us? Shangguan Yingying was stunned. Is that true? If this guy is so strong, why is he still an Outer Palace disciple? There must be a reason. Beichin said slowly, he's alone. Although the Outer Palace disciples dare to talk about him, none of them are enemies with him. He must be capable. That's why you can conclude that he doesn't have the intention to harm us. Otherwise, with his strength, he could just attack us directly. There's no need for him to go through so much trouble. Am I right? Bailey Hongzhuang said. Beichin smiled elegantly and nodded. That's right. So let's just let it be. It's hard to believe that such a sloppy guy is an expert. Shangguan Yingying shook her head, and still had a look of disbelief on her face. You can't judge a book by its cover. The new island was not far away from the seventh island. It didn't take long for the four of them to arrive. Looking around, they realized that there were many cultivators gathered on the new island. Almost all the cultivators in the Outer Palace who were free were there. Wow, there are so many people here, Shangguan Yingying exclaimed. From the looks of it, there must be many cultivators who came here from the Outer Palace after seeing the mission. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, and in her line of sight, there were already a lot of cultivators gathered on the periphery of the island. Indeed, the reward for this task is not low. Presumably, as long as the cultivators are not in seclusion, they have all come. Let's go up and take a look. I wonder what kind of monsters are on this new island. Ziren said with a smile. After putting away the boat, the four of them squeezed into the large group. As they gradually walked forward, they finally found out about the monsters on the island. Six-legged bright scorpion. Beichin said slowly. The six-legged bright scorpion's strength is equivalent to a purple realm 5th level cultivator. Everyone can deal with it. I just hope that the eight-legged bright scorpion won't appear here. The eight-legged bright scorpion's strength is equivalent to a purple realm 6th level cultivator. There are so many monsters on this island. If an eight-legged bright scorpion appears, the danger level will increase by a lot. All the cultivators of Penglai Island had reached the 5th level of the purple realm. The cultivators of Penglai Palace were even stronger than the average 5th level of the purple realm. Chapter 36:19. Once surrounded by the 8-footed bright scorpions, even a purple realm 7th level, or purple realm 8th level cultivator, would find it hard to survive. Hearing Beichin's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other with a serious expression. The current situation wasn't clear yet. If it was only the 6-footed bright scorpions, they wouldn't have to worry too much. However, if it was the 8-footed bright scorpions, they would have to be careful. Even if they had a treasure like the Chaos Ring, they couldn't use it in front of everyone. So they had to be careful. Ao Lingxiao was still following behind Beichin's group of four. Many cultivators, after seeing this scene, had a thick look of surprise on their faces. Hasn't Ao Lingxiao always been alone? Why is he with Beichin's group now? Beichin's group has always been a team of four. Other than Li Shengkai who died in their hands, I haven't seen them close to any other cultivators in the Outer Palace. Maybe they're facing each other. Because they usually don't interact with other cultivators, it makes sense that they're together now. If that's the case, then it's interesting. Ao Lingxiao's strength isn't weak. With the five of them together, they're even stronger. Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but frown when she saw that everyone had grouped them together. They weren't together with Ao Lingxiao, this weird guy. Ao Lingxiao ignored everyone's gazes. It was as if it had nothing to do with him, no matter how they looked at it. On this new island, the reward for killing a 6-footed bright scorpion is equivalent to killing 4 demonic beasts on other islands. This reward can be said to be 4 times greater. That's right. This is a good opportunity. As long as we can kill more 6-footed bright scorpions, we can exchange them for treasures when we return. Although they would soon have to fight with demonic beasts, many cultivators present were very excited, because the reward was very generous. As long as they exchanged for enough cultivation resources, they could increase their breakthrough speed. Looks like we have to work hard to hunt more demonic beasts. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and looked around. Almost all the surrounding cultivators had a strong fighting spirit in their eyes, as if they were ready to fight against the 6-footed bright scorpion. When Xiren nodded, "This island is extremely large. If the entire island is filled with 6-footed bright scorpions, their numbers would be terrifying. According to the information I have learned, it seems that every time a new island appears in this training ground, the disciples of Penglai Palace will clear out the monsters on this island together, and then gradually transform it into a new island that can be trained on." I see. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood. There are too many demonic beasts on this island. Only by working together can we quickly get rid of these demonic beasts. If there are too few people, it will be impossible to get rid of them. The cultivators of Penglai Palace did not waste any time, and immediately approached the inner part of the island. At the same time, the aura of Yuanli fluctuated continuously. Any team of 6-footed bright scorpions that they encountered had already started fighting. Battle circles had already formed. Chapter 36:20. The battle broke out on this new island. The disciples of Penglai Palace had already surrounded the entire island, and were constantly attacking inside. Various kinds of powerful yuan qi undulations rippled out unceasingly. Various kinds of splendid martial skills were displayed unceasingly. The sound of explosions resounded loudly, and the entire island seemed to have started to tremble. This kind of battle was undoubtedly extremely shocking. The fluctuations of the battle were even more terrifying. At this time, almost everyone had put down their personal grudges. Everyone's goal was to eliminate the 6-footed bright scorpions in front of them. The 6-footed bright scorpions obviously hated the human cultivators, who suddenly appeared in front of them. They were constantly attacking the human cultivators. A strong smell of blood drifted on this island. The ground was gradually dyed red with blood. The corpses of the 6-footed bright scorpions fell one by one. However, in this process, many cultivators were injured or even died. Bailey Hongzhuang's team of 4 was undoubtedly the weakest among the many teams. However, their fighting strength was also very strong. Ao Lingxiao still disdained to team up with other cultivators at this time. He was still alone, as if he was already used to all of this. However, in this situation where it was easy to be surrounded by the 6-footed bright scorpions, Ao Lingxiao was very dangerous alone. Fortunately, he was quite strong and was not injured. Di Beichen looked at Ao Lingxiao not far away and suddenly said, "Ao Lingxiao, if you don't mind, let's temporarily team up on this island. How about it?" Ao Lingxiao, who was in the middle of the battle, couldn't help but be stunned after hearing Di Beichen's words. His eyes flashed with deep surprise. He instinctively wanted to refuse, but after seeing Di Beichen's sincere gaze, he thought for a moment and nodded. Okay. He understood that Di Beichen wanted him to join the team, not because Di Beichen's team was lacking in manpower, but because Di Beichen wanted to help him. With his current situation, although there was no problem dealing with these 6-footed bright scorpions, he was naturally not as safe as a team working together. Moreover, the reason why he was still able to cope now was that his origin power was extremely sufficient. However, as the battle dragged on, he would no longer have the peak battle prowess that he had now. At that time, he would definitely be surrounded by danger. It was because of this that Di Beichen asked him to join the team. If he had seen pity or sympathy in Di Beichen's eyes, he would have disdained it. However, Di Beichen did not. He had only chosen to join because he saw sincerity and appreciation in Di Beichen's eyes. A smile suddenly appeared on that unrestrained and unruly face. The reason he had been following Di Beichen was to confirm one thing. But now that he gradually understood Bewitching's character, he suddenly felt a sense of admiration. Although this young fellow had a devilish face that made people very unhappy, it was hard not to admire his character. Smart, wise, and steady. With all these characteristics gathered in one person, it was truly perfect. Perhaps, it was indeed a good choice to be friends with them. Chapter 36:21. Shouldn't you be the one who's distracted? How do you know I'm distracted if you don't look at me? Ao Lingxiao looked at Shangguan Yingying with a faint smile. There was still a trace of evil and unruly smile on his lips, but there was a trace of sincerity in his eyes. Shangguan Yingying was stunned. I'm too lazy to care about you. I'm too lazy to look at you. The cultivators of Penglai Palace were indeed powerful. Their combat power was much stronger than the cultivators of the outside world. This could be seen from the efficiency of the battle. The 6-footed scorpion was considered very powerful among the Red Realm Level 5 cultivators. Ordinary Purple Realm Level 5 cultivators would have to struggle to deal with the 6-footed scorpion, but it was not difficult for the disciples of Penglai Palace to deal with it. Our progress is not slow. If we continue to sweep at this speed, I'm afraid we can kill all the 6-footed scorpions on this island in less than a month. Bailey Hongzhuang's beautiful face had a bright smile. Fortunately, this new island was not dangerous. Shangguan Yingying nodded. It should be so. After this mission is over, let's go back to Penglai Palace to rest. With their ability, it was not unusual for them to be outside. It was just that they wanted to go back and relax after staying here for so long. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. When the time comes, we can ask Ao Lingxiao if he has confirmed what he wants to confirm. With that, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but turn to Ao Lingxiao. Noticing Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze, Ao Lingxiao was slightly stunned and said, "What I said is not so easy to confirm. This matter is very important. I must confirm it before I say it. However, after this matter is said, it depends on whether you agree or not." Bewitching raised his good-looking eyebrows, his brow furrowed in thought. That depends on what you want to tell us. If I confirm it, it is related to you. As Ao Lingxiao's voice fell, the relaxed expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but change. Their eyes then condensed on Ao Lingxiao. If this matter was related to Bailey Hongzhuang, Wen Xiren, or even Shangguan Yingying, they would not care too much, because they were sure that they had no interaction with Ao Lingxiao before. What Ao Lingxiao wanted to confirm was probably related to Master Long. However, now that Ao Lingxiao said that this matter was related to Bewitching, then this was not necessarily the case. Bewitching's origin until now, they always thought that the reason why Bewitching for so many years had no news of his parents was that his parents on Penglai Island. It was precisely because it was isolated from the outside world that Si Tuyen had spent so many years helping to search for any useful information. Could it be that Ao Lingxiao knew something about Bewitching's origin? After Ao Lingxiao noticed the sudden change in the gazes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. His originally uncertain expression seemed to have become a bit more certain. It's related to me? Bewitching's eyes gradually deepened. You and I have no relationship before. What you want to say is related to me. Chapter 36:22. Brother Shui, Bailey Hongzhuang, and the other three actually formed a team with Ao Lingxiao. This is really strange. Didn't Ao Lingxiao never form a team with anyone? Looking at them, they seemed to be chatting happily. Fang Tianyi frowned. Shui Changdong's face also revealed a puzzled expression. Ao Lingxiao's actions this time are really strange. Although this guy's temperament is very strange, his strength is not weak. Now that he has formed a team with Bailey Hongzhuang and the other three, this will undoubtedly add some trouble to our next operation. Looking at the 5 figures chatting happily in the distance, Shui Changdong gradually frowned. He realized that the situation was really getting more and more troublesome. Originally, it was very difficult to get rid of Bewitching and Xiren. Now that Ao Lingxiao had joined, none of the 3 people were simple. Moreover, he still had to keep Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying. which undoubtedly increased the difficulty of the matter. Brother Shui, I also observed their battle today. From their performance, the six-footed bright scorpion doesn't seem to be difficult for them. It seems that it won't be easy for us to get rid of them with the help of the six-footed bright scorpion. Feng Tianyi now felt that the difficulty of this matter was too high. Even if the reward was rich, it would not be worth it if they suffered a double loss. Don't worry, I found another thing today. Shui Changdong smiled. What is it? This island not only has the six-footed bright scorpion, but also the eight-footed bright scorpion. Once this was said, Feng Tianyi and the other cultivators could not help but be stunned. Their faces suddenly became nervous. Eight-footed bright scorpion? That's right. When I went deeper today, I found the existence of the eight-footed bright scorpion. Currently, everyone only saw the periphery of the island and is not clear about the situation inside. If I'm not wrong, I'm afraid that only the periphery of the island has the six-footed bright scorpion, but the inside of the island is the eight-footed bright scorpion. Shui Changdong glanced at everyone and continued. If the six-footed bright scorpion cannot cause trouble for them, the eight-footed bright scorpion is not so easy to deal with. Once everyone knew about this situation, they would definitely choose to join forces to deal with the demonic beasts. At that time, I can suggest that the male disciples lead the way while the female disciples bring up the rear. I believe that no one will reject this suggestion. Only in this way can we successfully separate them. As long as they separate, I will guide Bewitching and the others to the gathering place of the eight-legged bright scorpions. Once they are surrounded, so what if they are strong? They won't be able to make it out alive. The corners of Shui Changdong's mouth curled up slightly. The malicious and ruthless light in his eyes grew even more intense. However, he was secretly delighted in his heart. He had thought for a long time before coming up with such a foolproof plan. The eyes of Feng Tianyi and the others lit up, and they instantly gained a bit of confidence. Brother Shui, your idea is really great. If everything really goes as planned, then we will definitely succeed. As long as we're able to complete this mission, Senior Brother Peng and the others will definitely value us even more in the future. In the future, we'll be able to receive their care after we go to the inner hall. That's undoubtedly the best outcome. Shui Changdong chuckled. Chapter 36-23. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5, along with many cultivators from the Penglai Outer Palace, hunted wicked beasts on the new island. Whenever their yuanli was exhausted, everyone would retreat some distance to cultivate and restore their yuanli. On this day, everyone continued to advance into the island as usual. Although only 7 days had passed, the number of six-footed bright scorpions that died every day was astonishing. Because of this, everyone also deeply understood the huge reproductive ability of monsters. The number of six-footed bright scorpions on the entire island could be said to be terrifying. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were fighting with the wicked beasts, a cry of surprise came from the front. Eight-footed bright scorpions. There are eight-footed bright scorpions among the monsters. Hearing this cry, the surrounding cultivators couldn't help but be stunned. Then their eyes flashed with deep surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other. They didn't expect eight-footed bright scorpions to appear. Beichin, your judgment is right. Eight-footed bright scorpions really appeared. It seems that the next cleanup work won't be so easy. Ziren looked at Beichin and sighed. Beichin's eyes became more serious. It seems that these eight-footed bright scorpions are probably in the center of the island. Everyone has to be more careful if they continue to fight. If we are surrounded by eight-footed bright scorpions, even the 5 of us won't have a good time. Don't worry, we will just follow the team. Generally, there won't be any problems. Ao Lingxiao seemed very indifferent, as if he didn't care about this news at all. Seeing that Ao Lingxiao still didn't care, Beichin and the others smiled faintly and shook their heads. They didn't know when Ao Lingxiao's indifferent temperament started. They really couldn't imagine what could make Ao Lingxiao care. Feeling the gaze of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but say, "Everyone came here to hunt monsters to get more points. There's no need to lose your life for this. I don't like to be a hero, and I don't like to look at other people's high and mighty leaders. I'm just happy and carefree by myself. You're carefree. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly raised. Ao Lingxiao's words explained why he was always alone. But thinking about it, she felt that Ao Lingxiao's view was very clear. In comparison, perhaps their obsession was deeper, so they couldn't be so carefree and indifferent to everything. However, although your temperament is carefree, I think there are still some things in your heart that you can't see through of things. Ao Lingxiao, Ao Lingxiao, Ao of Ao Lingxiao. Of Ao. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but be stunned. He saw the wisdom and understanding in the former's eyes, as if she had seen through everything. Suddenly, Ao Lingxiao laughed in a low voice. I suddenly understand why Master Long looks at you in a different light. You are indeed powerful. Seeing that Ao Lingxiao had indirectly admitted to his words, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile quietly widened. In this world, even the most carefree person would have some things that they couldn't let go of. Chapter 36-24. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others continued to advance, they would occasionally see an 8-footed bright scorpion among the 6-footed bright scorpions. Seeing this scene, they also understood that this should be the gathering place of the 6-footed bright scorpions. It was just that some 8-footed bright scorpions would occasionally appear here. Only when they went deeper would they enter the territory of the 8-footed bright scorpions. Because there weren't many 8-footed bright scorpions, it wasn't difficult for them to deal with them. It was just that their advancement speed would be slightly slower than a few days ago. Gradually, the cultivators of the Penglai Outer Palace found it more and more difficult to deal with the 6-footed bright scorpions, because the number of 8-footed bright scorpions was gradually increasing. On this day, Xue Changdong proposed that the stronger male cultivators lead the way in front, because the 8-footed bright scorpions were appearing more and more frequently. Moreover, they didn't seem to be evenly distributed. There were more and less of them. Therefore, everyone had to explore the path first. After exploring where it was more dangerous, everyone would deal with it together. The female cultivators were mostly weaker than the male cultivators, so it was more appropriate for them to take care of the fish that got caught in the net at the back. Following Xue Changdong's suggestion, most of the cultivators present nodded in agreement. At this moment, everyone was a disciple of the Penglai Palace. Naturally, they needed to work together to deal with these monsters. In the past, the cultivators of the Penglai Palace would often make the same arrangements when they encountered such a situation. I didn't expect Xue Changdong to be so protective of the fairer sex. He actually proposed to let the female cultivators stay at the back. This way, I'm afraid many female disciples have a very good impression of him. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile as she spoke slowly. Ao Lingxiao casually glanced at Xue Changdong, who was not far away, and said, "This guy usually likes to act like a hero. However, his strength is also one of the top in the outer palace, so his words have a lot of appeal. Don't talk about others. In my opinion, he might be much better than you." Shangguan Yingying shrugged. Ao Lingxiao suddenly smiled sarcastically. "You're blind. According to my understanding, although this guy looks dignified on the surface, he has done a lot of bad things behind the scenes. Most of the time, it's this gentlemanly appearance that makes it easy to trick people. If it was someone like me, I'm afraid no one would believe me." Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but be stunned by Ao Lingxiao's words. She felt that Ao Lingxiao's words were very reasonable. You know yourself. Well, with your appearance, no one will pay attention to you. Of course I know myself. I never ask about anything that has nothing to do with me, whether it's murder or arson, whether it's a gentleman or a despicable person. It's enough for me to see through them. If others can't see through them, they deserve trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other, and then looked at Xue Changdong in the distance. From the information revealed by Ao Lingxiao, this Xue Changdong was not a good person. Although Xue Changdong looked righteous and awe-inspiring, compared to the wanton and unrestrained Ao Lingxiao, they still believed in Ao Lingxiao. Chapter 36-25. That's right. The decision of the other female cultivators has nothing to do with us. In any case, the 5 of us should stick together. Shen Guanying nodded. Their group was already very small. If they were to split up now, the number of people would be even smaller. Although many cultivators were standing on the same side, no one knew if they would really stick together when the time came. In the end, it was safer for them to stick together. Moreover, they were already hated in the outer palace. In such a chaotic situation, they might be killed. Hearing Shen Guanying's words, Ao Lingxiao couldn't help but look at her in surprise. He didn't think that Shen Guanying, who had always acted like she didn't care about him, would actually treat him as a teammate at a time like this. While the 5 of them were talking, the cultivators present had also made their choices. Soon, the male cultivators and female cultivators automatically split up. The male cultivators walked to the front while the female cultivators stayed behind. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 also walked to the group of male cultivators. Many cultivators noticed the actions of Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5, and a trace of surprise appeared on their faces. Clearly, they didn't expect them to make such a choice. Bailey Hongzhuang's group is really unique. Others can't join them. I think only a guy like Ao Lingxiao can blend in with them. That's not it. I think their relationship with the inner palace cultivators is pretty good. Now that everyone has split up, they still haven't made any moves. It's really... Bailey Hongzhuang and the others stood quietly in the same place. The words of others did not affect them in the slightest. In fact, they were already used to the criticism of the crowd. They had long been accustomed to it. Xue Changdong originally thought that his suggestion was extremely good. This way, he could justifiably split up Bailey Hongzhuang and Shen Guanying from the group. It would be much easier for him to make a move on Bewitching and Shen Guanying. However, Xue Changdong realized that the 5 of them were still in the same group as before. They did not seem to have the slightest intention of splitting up. Xue Changdong could not help but frown. The next moment, Xue Changdong walked quickly to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and said, "Are you dissatisfied with my suggestion? Everyone has already separated. Why are you still like this?" "No." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "The reason why senior brother Xue let the female cultivator stand at the back is undoubtedly to protect us. However, we are already used to being in the same team. Besides, we are not afraid of danger. So let's explore the way for everyone." Bailey Hongzhuang's elegant and refined face rippled with a smile as elegant as a lotus. Bailey Hongzhuang's words were reasonable and justified. In a few words, she explained their behavior, making people unable to find any fault. Everyone, who thought that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others would definitely ignore them, couldn't help but be stunned at this moment. They didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually explain this matter. It seemed that she was much easier to get along with than they thought. From the moment these 4 people entered Penglai Palace until now, what everyone saw was the strong side they showed in battle. Every time they met, it was either a battle or a conflict. Everyone really didn't have any understanding of their true character. Chapter 36-26. Looking at the beautiful face in front of him, Xue Changdong's expression couldn't help but pause. His eyes couldn't help but flash with a touch of amazement. He already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was beautiful, but for him, nothing was more important than strength. In addition, he also knew in his heart that he wasn't worthy of a woman like Bailey Hongzhuang. However, at this moment, when he saw the perfect face at such a close distance, he couldn't suppress the shock in his heart. Too beautiful. He had never seen such a perfect face. There was no lack of charm in the elegance, no lack of nobility in the elegance. It was as if there was magic. As long as one looked at it, it would be unforgettable. At this moment, when he heard Bailey Hongzhuang's light and sweet voice, Xue Changdong only felt that he was almost bewitched. "Brother Xue." Fang Tian saw that Xue Changdong began to be in a daze, and couldn't help but remind him in a low voice. "Ah." Only then did Xue Changdong come back to his senses. When he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, he had already regained his senses. "Junior sister Bailey, what you said is very reasonable. However, now that everyone is following this rule, If you are too independent, it doesn't seem too appropriate. After all, once you are an exception, other cultivators may follow suit. In this way, the rule will be broken, and the following things will not be convenient to continue. In order to let this matter proceed properly, I hope the two of you can understand. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang slightly frowned. She didn't think that this matter was a big deal at all. However, at this moment, after Xue Changdong raised the matter to such a high level, she didn't know how to refute. Shengguan Yingying's face also looked a little ugly. This Xue Changdong is beating around the bush to put such a big label on us. If we refuse, isn't it the same as making this label true? I said earlier that this kind of guy is best at this kind of method. As long as you don't agree, he will directly put the label of not cooperating with you. In this way, it seems polite, but it is full of coercion. Ao Ling Xiao shrugged and said. Xue Changdong's face was rippling with a smile. He believed that under such circumstances, the other party could no longer refuse. So be it, Xiren said. You'll be safe if you stay behind. Besides, this isn't a big deal. We'll meet again when the time comes. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Bewitching. Bewitching also nodded. It's fine. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang said, all right then. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shengguan Yingying slowly walked out of the group and joined the women's group at the back. The smile on Xue Changdong's face gradually widened. He cupped his hands towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the others and said, thank you for your cooperation, junior brothers and sisters. Standing in the female team, Bailey Hongzhuang's tightly furrowed brows did not loosen. This situation reminds me of the time when I was training in the inner palace. At that time, she said that if there was danger in the future, she would definitely not be separated from everyone. However, now she was stuck again. The last time they went out, it was an act of suicide. However, from what I see, this island is not that dangerous. Besides, there are so many cultivators here. Nothing will happen. Shengguan Yingying comforted. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's true. This new island is indeed much safer. That's why I agreed. Chapter 36-27. Master, I feel that there's something wrong with the way Xue Changdong looks at you. Xiao He sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and dangled her 2 feet, a puzzled look on her face. Shengguan Yingying couldn't help but chuckle. That's because he's taken a fancy to Hongzhuang. Previously, his eyes were staring straight at Hongzhuang, as if he had lost his soul. Xue Changdong's absent-mindedness was extremely obvious. If it weren't for the cultivator beside him reminding him, it was unknown when he would have regained his senses. That's true. Xiao He chuckled. Master's charm is indeed amazing. What nonsense are you all talking about? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, a hint of helplessness on her pretty face. Shengguan Yingying raised her eyebrows and chuckled. I'm telling the truth. However, Hongzhuang, you're really the most beautiful person I've seen in all these years. Back then, I thought that Beichen was so good-looking that I was afraid that no woman in this world could match him. It wasn't until I met you that I realized that there was actually someone who could match him so well. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. When she first met Beichen, she was also shocked. She never thought that the scoundrel who called her his wife would actually become her true love. Since everyone has been divided into teams, let's begin. Suddenly, Xue Changdong's voice came from the front. After receiving everyone's response, everyone continued to advance towards the inner part of the island. Brother Xue, now that we've successfully separated them, the next step should be very smooth, right? Feng Tiany's eyes shone brightly, and his face was filled with an unconcealable smile. Now, everything was ready, except for the east wind. Xue Changdong nodded. That's right. I've already told Beichen and the rest to move towards the place with the most 8-legged bright scorpions. Later, we'll be not far from them, and take the opportunity to push them forward. This way, we'll be able to complete the task. Brother Xue is wise. Everyone thought that such a troublesome matter would be solved by Brother Xue's little trick. I'm really impressed. Xue Changdong smiled proudly. The most important thing in Punglai Palace is the brain. As long as you're willing to use your brain, you'll get twice the result with half the effort. When we return, The cultivation resources promised by Senior Peng will also be ours. Let's strive to enter the Inner Palace successfully during the Inner Palace assessment. With Brother Shue's ability, there won't be any problems with entering the palace. In the blink of an eye, these groups, theirs and the others'. In just a blink of an eye, they's SDs. There's really a lot of cultivators here. We've been squeezing and we've disappeared. Shangguan Yingying looked ahead in surprise. Looking at the unfamiliar figures in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. Yingying, let's look for Bewitchings. I don't know why, but I have a bad feeling. Chapter 36-28. When Xue Changdong saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were no longer behind him, his lips slowly curled into a sinister smile, and his eyes became brighter. Earlier on, he had already bribed some cultivators to deliberately confuse everyone. Only by doing so could he completely separate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Otherwise, if Bewitching and the others were in danger and Bailey Hongzhuang and the others ran over, wouldn't his previous plan be in vain? Bewitching and the other two cleared the monsters in front of them and did not pay much attention to the back. They knew that with Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yingying's strength, there was no danger at the back of the group. The number of 8-legged bright scorpions is increasing, Bewitching said as he fought. Xiren nodded with a solemn expression. Indeed, we have already encountered 3 8-legged bright scorpions along the way. It has only been an hour, and they have not appeared so frequently in the past few days. In my opinion, our opponents will completely become the 8-legged bright scorpions in a few days. These guys are very difficult to deal with. Ao Lingxiao frowned. If it was not for Bewitching and the others, he would not like to join in the fun. As Bewitching and the others gradually went deeper, they suddenly realized that the 8-legged bright scorpions appeared more frequently. It went from 2 or 3 at the beginning to 5, 6, 7 or 8. Most importantly, these 8-legged bright scorpions appeared at the same time. As a result, they could not help but feel the pressure. The 8-legged bright scorpion's strength was equivalent to a Purple Realm 6th level cultivator. Although Xiren had the ability to fight above his level, with so many of them appearing, it was difficult for him to deal with them. Something is wrong with this situation. Bewitching stopped and looked ahead with a complicated expression. According to our judgment, the 8-legged bright scorpions should appear in a few days. Why is it like this now? When Xiren was also somewhat puzzled. I don't know either. We've been separated from the main group for quite a while. But judging from the battle fluctuations coming from the others, it seems that the situation they've encountered isn't as complicated as ours. Could it be that there are more 8-legged bright scorpions in our direction? Ao Lingxiao frowned. The direction we are in seems to have been pointed out by Xue Changdong. Have you offended Xue Changdong before? No. Bewitching shook his head and said with certainty, although we have offended many people in the outer palace, we have never seen Xue Changdong. Maybe I'm thinking too much. Ao Lingxiao shrugged and shook his head. Since there was no conclusion, they continued to walk forward. Moreover, there were more than 10 cultivators beside them. As long as they were not surrounded by 8-legged bright scorpions, there would be no problem. Brother Shui, the 8-legged bright scorpion's nest is in front. If Bewitching and the others walk in, it will be like poking a hornet's nest. Let's not continue forward. Xue Changdong looked ahead. Let them go in by themselves. We will stay here. If they escape, we will guard here and throw them back. Brother Shui, they have more than 10 cultivators with them. What about them? Fang Tianyi could not help but ask. Chapter 36-29. Bewitching and the others continued to move forward. Suddenly, the movement in front of them became louder. Seeing this, they couldn't help but stop and look in front of them. There seems to be something wrong in front. It seems like there are many monsters approaching us. There were already many monsters in front. Why did the number suddenly increase? Xiren frowned. I think this situation is a bit strange. Why don't we retreat and be careful? Bewitching nodded. That's right. This situation is indeed a bit strange. Let's wait for a while. However, when Bewitching suggested that everyone wait for a while, the other cultivators didn't seem to care. Didn't everyone say that Bewitching and the others are very powerful? Looking at their current performance, I really can't tell. So what if there are mini monsters in front of us? It's just a 6-footed bright scorpion. If one comes, we'll kill one. If a group comes, we'll kill a group. There's no need to be afraid. I don't know what Master Long sees in them. In my opinion, I'm much better than them. Bewitching raised his beautiful eyebrows, but ignored the sarcastic words of the crowd. He turned to Xiren and Ao Lingxiao and said, "We'll wait here for a while. Don't worry." In this kind of dangerous situation, he didn't want to let his emotions affect his decisions. Hong Zhuang was still waiting for him. Since the last incident, he promised Hong Zhuang that he wouldn't easily take risks. He didn't want Hong Zhuang to worry. Okay. Xiren and Ao Lingxiao nodded together. They also had a bad feeling in their hearts. In this kind of situation, there was no need to show off. When the crowd saw that Bewitching and the others had stopped, their footsteps paused slightly. Then, they threw a disdainful look at Bewitching and the others, and continued to move forward. Shui Changdong and the others obviously didn't think that Bewitching and the others' intuition would be so accurate. They actually chose to stop here. Oh no, if they stop here, won't they not fall into our trap? Feng Tianyi was a little flustered. It wasn't easy for them to come up with such a foolproof plan. They were about to succeed, but they didn't expect the other party to suddenly stop. Shui Changdong couldn't help but be stunned. How can this be? While Bewitching and the other two were thinking about the situation in front of them, they suddenly heard a slight sound coming from behind them. The three of them couldn't help but look at each other. Along the way, all the demon beasts behind them had been beheaded by them. It was impossible for any more demon beasts to appear. If that was the case, then there was only one possibility. What appeared behind them wasn't a demonic beast, but a human. Why are there people behind us? Bewitching winked, and the three of them immediately went into hiding. Shui Changdong and the others were just thinking about countermeasures. But when they looked again, they found that Bewitching and the other two had already disappeared. How can this be? Where are they? Shui Changdong was slightly startled. He kept looking around. This situation was really unexpected. Feng Tianyi looked around and didn't see Bewitching and the others. He couldn't help but ask, could they have continued to move forward? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.